Are you a product leader, a product director, or a CPO who sees that their team, the product team, is struggling to deliver business impact? One of the main problems that product teams have to deliver business impact is that they don't have a system, they don't have a set of operations that help them understanding what different opportunities are and how they are going to deliver impact to the business. In this video, let's talk about the most important operations and systems that you can build in your team so they can really focus on building and bringing that business impact. So if you don't know me, my name is Juan Rodriguez and I have been building software products for over 20 years and I have been in product leader roles since 2017. And one of the areas that I see that have helped most product teams to grow and to really focus on business impact is setting the operations. And today I want to share with you how I've set up operations in several tech companies and how this can help you and help your teams, more importantly, to really focus on building and bringing that business impact to your company and also to your customers. So there's going to be several aspects to setting up operations. So the first one is that, well, obviously you had to have a strategy and a vision. And if you have a strategy and a vision and you are not using it, well, then you have a very big problem. And if you don't have a strategy, you still have a big problem. And when you're building a strategy, you have to make sure that what you are defining as a strategy is not a set of goals. Reaching 200 million next year of revenue is not a strategy. That's just a goal. A strategy is going to tell you how you are going to get to that result that you want. And usually a strategy is not going to be something that spans for 1 year. That's more like a tactical thing. It's going to be something that spans over several years. And you could argue that setting a strategy is not necessarily operations, although defining a strategy is part of the operations of a normal business, so I would still put it there, but you would have to have it. And if you don't have it, you as a product director, as a CPO or as a VP of product, you really had to be part of defining the strategy of the company, at least of the products that you are responsible for, and that your strategy aligns with the company strategy. That should be relatively and fairly obvious. And this is part of what your role is as a product leader. I think that if you are not doing this job actively, then you have a problem. Obviously, you don't have to be working in defining strategy all the time because a strategy should stay for a relatively long period in the company, but you have to review it. You have to make sure that it's going in the right direction, that it's still correct, at least in a regular basis, like once or twice a year, you had to sit down and rethink that, is this still the correct strategy for us, or do we, for example, have to pivot for whatever reason? The second aspect that you want to start ensuring is that your team is user-centric. And you can do this by increasing discovery with your teams. This is the part of the operations. Within operations, the discovery aspect, being able to work with your customers to understand if the problems that you're solving are real, is the business that is there, is something that is important or that is relevant, is a big enough business for me to go for? And are the solutions that we are building efficient? Are they technically feasible? And are they the most desirable for our users? That's the part of discovery you had to do. And this is not something that you should do in a vacuum. You should work with your customers or your prospects, whatever you have a product already, or if you are not having a product, or if you are trying to enter a new area with a new product, then you really had to work with your customers to understand what they are expecting. And the next aspect that I want to talk about, and that is going to be key for your operations, is setting proper prioritization systems. Most of the teams will prioritize whether you have a strategy or not. And this is why I talked earlier about strategy and why having a strategy is very important. If you don't have a strategy that is reflecting the business impact that you want to create, your teams will be prioritizing in many different ways, or according to what they hear, or according to whoever speaks the loudest, or according to what they hear from the customers. This might not be necessarily wrong, but they can be risky because they might not be aligned with your strategic goals. This is why you had to have a strategy and a system to be able to prioritize against the strategy that you have set up. The next operational aspect that for you is going to be very important to focus on as a product director or as a CPO is that you have to make sure that your building the systems to really plan and create roadmaps that align with that business impact that you want to create. Having the discovery, having the prioritization should help you do that. But you also have to understand how you are going to work with other teams, being cross-functional. What are you doing? What activities are you doing? So you make sure that your go-to-market teams, so marketing, sales, support, they really are looking and understanding what you're building, and they are taking that input of what is coming in the future as how they are going to be talking and promoting to their customers. Because you can have the perfect product, but if you don't have the good plan to really take it out there and get it to the market, promote it, so that your potential users hear about it, they understand why they should pay attention to it. There's a ton of noise out there. So you have to stand out. You have to really make sure that you are building or creating that message for them. And this is something that if you don't plan properly, you might have the perfect product, but you are never going to be successful because you are not going to be able to explain it, to talk about your value proposition, to talk about the use cases, to talk about your ICP, your ideal customer profile. All these things, if you don't understand them, if you don't work with them, if you don't plan for them, they are not going to get out there. Are they all your responsibility? No, they are not necessarily your responsibility. It depends a lot on what are your responsibilities as a CPO or a product director. They vary quite widely from company to company. So if you are able to set up this process of being cross-functional, or being able to explain to others what you're doing so they understand, not you, but your team, obviously, what they are doing, they are going to get that input much better. They're going to be able to do their work much better. And you have to be able to understand how you're going to build your product in a way that is maximizing that impact. Many of the products that are out there and companies that I work with as well, the problem many times that I've seen in the beginning is that there are a ton of potentially valuable features that are going to benefit the customers, but there's so many and so much across the board that it's difficult to find a message that makes sense for the users. So there is very little impact because you are spreading yourself too thin across many different initiatives, which all of them on their own could be relevant. But sometimes focusing and being able to deliver impact on a specific area and with the message that is according to that area that you have improved or those new set of features or that new product is much easier, is much better. The next area that you want to set up operations with is the iteration, feedback, and create the feedback loops to really grow your company, you grow your product. You have to be able to build the feedback loops on when you start to create new features, when your team starts creating new features, when the team starts to release into your customers, how you get that feedback, how you make sure that you are able to adapt, that you are agile to adapt to the new requests or the comments that or feedback that you're hearing from your audience, that you can iterate and that you can grow further. We should not be building for perfection. We should be building always on phases, so we are validating what we are building, and based on that validation, we can adapt if needed, or we can continue with the next phases of whatever it is that we are trying to build. And this is also why setting a strategy is going to help us with this, chunking our development into reasonable phases that we can validate and get feedback from the users and improve, iterate, and build better solutions on the future. That's going to be very key for your teams to be successful. So these are some of the aspects where many teams are struggling a lot, and where if you are able to set the operations with the teams to be able to be more efficient, this is going to help them massively to really start focusing, not to work more, it's just to work more clever. You want your team to be more clever when they are working. You want them to really focus on the things that matter. You want to have that framework, those operations, those systems that are going to help them really focus on what is valuable for the customers and for the business. If you want to implement these systems in your company, I created a course based on my experience in different tech companies and what I've seen that it has worked to share with you. go check out the link down below. If you want to know more about what product operations is and how to set them up in a company, go check out this video. I will see you in the next one, and remember, stay safe.